Melanie, how are you?
I'm awesome. How are you?
I'm good. It's a cold day here in Ottawa. And first question I'd like to ask you is what motivated you to jump into being a creative person?
Okay, I don't think anybody's ever asked me that question. I think I've always been creative. I've always liked sound and words and pictures. I don't think I'm limited to the musical arts. And I always like to make sound and experience things. And I'm just curious by how life moves, and then how we move to music and how art moves to music. And I was pretty little. I started listening to music, I right away, and everything was about music. So I don't know. I don't think I ever had to think about it. I think I was born like this.
Fair enough. When I ask, say, what song defines your youth? What one song defines your teens? What song would that be?
That's funny.
And why?
Probably I'm a big Smiths fan, big Morrissey fan, which I don't know, doesn't seem to be the apropos thing right now, but I really like the song what's it called? Reel Around the Fountain. And it has, just because I love the word butterfly, and I used to think it was so amazing that you can get all these ah sounds, and I would listen to it over and over again.
Can we hear something?
Blah, blah, blah. I don't know, maybe. Hold on, it goes, it's time the tale we're told of how you took a child and you made him old, And then the chorus goes, reel around the fountain, something patio, da 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 da. And then, anyway, but the line is, sadly, you can pin and mount me, which I did not know what that meant at the time, like a butterfly. And it goes, take me to the haven of your bed, was something that you never said. Anyway, whatever, something like that. It's been a long time.
Now, what, as far as performance, when you're performing and singing, what do you get out of performance? I've seen you perform.
I think I'm going to say it's energy and life and kind of like peace. When you close your eyes and then you wake up after 5 minutes and you feel refreshed. Well, I feel like that after I perform.
Do you get nervous before performance?
I used to get really nervous.
Why?
I think it was the unknown of what was going to happen. But once I started embracing it, I started doing things where the unknown was pretty much everything that was going to happen. And then it kind of opened me up to like a whole different style of music. And so I just started doing more. So like the jazz thing. And then I don't really worry. And also because I'm much more aware visually what's happening around me. And when you play with people who've been playing for a long time, we kind of know what looks mean. And so if you get lost, or if you want somebody to jump in because you forgot your line, you just look at them and they just boom. And you're like, there you go. I didn't have to sing it because I can remember it or whatever. So it's kind of it's more of a team if you've been playing for a while.
When you say you get lost in it?
Sure. Words or what part of the song you're in, or it happens every once in a while. You start singing too early and somebody's in the middle of a solo and you're like, oops, sorry. Was that your solo? I didn't mean to do that. Right. But the other way too, because your performances aren't always the things you sing all the time. So when I sing as a band, that's stuff that I have control of, that I've been singing forever and I sing all the time. But I sing other stuff too. Like I sing for events, and if somebody asks me to sing something, then I might not know it as well as if I get distracted, I might not notice that I'm, that, oh no, now's the chorus or whatever. But I fake it.
Now, as a performer, how do you know? When do you know that you're happy with your performance?
My goal is to always be happy with a performance and to always learn something from the performance.
Wow.
So
has that always been your goal?
No, but I've watched other people perform, and there's a lot of inner dialogue that comes with performing. So this, I'm going to say I don't want to say hate because that's the word, but putting ourselves down.
Criticism?
Right. Self-criticism. That's a good word. So I hear people criticizing themselves in their performance. And then I think of other people who can't even, they don't even know what it is they want to perform, or there's no interest in performing. And I figure if you've gotten to the point where you're performing, you've made it. So that's it. Like you're there. And then just own it. Right. And nobody really knows. Everybody likes something different. So you might like words and somebody might like music. Maybe somebody felt the vibe. They might come and not even want to listen to me. Maybe they like the drummer, like who knows what it is. So you don't focus on any of that kind of stuff. You just do the best you can do. And when you're done, you're like, I was given the opportunity of doing this. Amazing. Would I do something better? Is there something I wouldn't do again or whatever? And then you write it down in your things to do better book, and then you go on.
When you're on stage, I've seen you perform once, and the vibe that I got was, wow, here's someone who's enjoying the moment, who's confident in her performance, and is generally happy on stage. Has it always been like that in terms of when you're singing and rocking the stage?
I'm just hyper. I actually tone it down.
Really?
I do.
In your performance?
Yeah, I have to. Why? I think I need a bigger, better crew I need like a head mic or something so that I could move more. I don't know. I need to figure out a way of moving more because I think I have a lot of built up energy, but I'm usually restricted. Usually where we perform is small and we're all kind of like sardine together. So
it's more intimate and kind of like relaxed and in terms of
we're really close together.
Right,
and so you don't want to, like lean back on someone's drum kit or something.
Right. Now, when you say movement, when you say, is that more like using the space or more in the more dance?
I just think more using the space. I'm not sure what that would look like. I just know I have a lot of energy, and sometimes I feel like there's more. I'm just waiting for it to come out, I guess. But again, I think you were talking about what you worry about. I don't worry about my performance. I worry more about things like, am I going to accidentally, bump someone or throw my microphone on the ground? Or
has that ever happened?
Nope, not yet.
Not yet. Knock on wood.
Knock on wood.
So you're also as you're a performer, but you're also a music educator. Yeah.
Yep.
You teach people how to play and sing, so on and so forth. What does that do for you? What do you get out of that as a creative person?
Well, I have this deep want to empower people by giving them confidence. And I feel that, especially with kids, but with adults too, there's this thing where we start taking music lessons, but I don't know what we're afraid of, but we're afraid. And I think that if I can empower other people to be confident, then I'm making our world a better place. And then if I create music lovers, then I'm creating our world even a better place, because the more there's music lovers, there's more people going to music things. So I get it's that kind of satisfaction that it's my way of giving back with what I have. And actually I have a new project which is starting in March, because I'm doing an evening of song for people who are dealing with cancer treatment.
Wow.
As a way of living in the moment and in the now through music, living in the good part of the day and not focusing on the bad part.
Well, tell us more about this project and where we can find information on it.
So it's at the Ottawa Integrative Cancer Center, and that's where I went for I guess treatment because I had cancer, blah, 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 but that's where I went to get support, and it was amazing. And I thought that it'd be a way that I wanted to know how I could give back to their community for being so amazing and helping me get through everything I went through. And then it dawned on me that music is what gets me through. I love singing gets me through everything. And so it'll be on Monday nights once a month, and at the OICC, I think it's Bayswater and can't remember what the name of the street is, but
Maryville?
no, it's
Bayswater.
Bayswater and Somerset
Yeah.
or
Wellington.
maybe it is Wellington, right when it crosses.
Yeah, Wellington and Bayswater. Yeah.
So it's at the OICC.
It's near the arena, the hockey
That's right.
arena. Yeah.
Yeah, and so
Bayview.
it's oicc.ca, and they'll have information on their site. We're just finishing up the dates and all that.
Interesting. So this is a monthly sort of
monthly
feature.
thing. Yeah.
Okay,
So
wow.
people have to pay, but it's not.
Right.
The money doesn't go to me. It's to go to the OICC, and they're letting me use their space, which is nice.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And is it an hour-long performance, 30 minutes?
It's an hour, and it's just there's no like levels or anything. People can just hum, or they can breathe, or they can sing, and we're just gonna sit together. They have mats, and and chairs, and we'll just sit together and just, sing energetic songs.
Wow, that is really cool.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be.
That's awesome.
I think it's gonna be. I think it feels like a reward. You know what I mean? To be able to share with people who are going through what I just went through. So yeah.
Now, some people, of course, there's arts therapy, music therapy as a healing modality. Well, what are your thoughts on that as far as using music and art to heal?
I think it's personal. I think for me it's music. For somebody else it might be art. But I think it's just. I think we're so inhibited sometimes in our lives. We're trying to find our way out or whatever that is.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it's music. If I can help somebody, then that's great. Some other people's sports, other people, I don't know. Like I think it's such a personal thing.
Sure.
I don't think that music is the only way.
Right.
But I think music's definitely my way. So yeah.
Yeah, and I guess you're seeing more and more of arts and creative therapy being used as a way to heal people. Be it from trauma, be it from recovering from an illness or what have you.
But we use music all the time, right? Like we use music even in meditation. We use, if you go to even if you go to yoga, music is a way of bringing us in the moment, and it's very much a in the now thing. And I think that's the healing thing of it, right?
It's in the now thing.
Yeah, like being in the moment, in the present moment, and not being focused in the fact that you're, whether it's ill or troubled or whether it be a physical or mental or thing, right? Like illness can be very little. It could be a cold, right? But if for, even 5 minutes of your day, you can forget all your troubles, then you've accomplished being in that moment of who you are right then and now without necessarily having to go to what's happened or what's going to happen.
I'm going to make a generalization that most creative people usually are all over the place, sporadic with ideas and they're all over the place. So for someone who's creative to be centered and to be in the now, do you think that's possible?
Probably not. No,
because it's a challenge, is it not? I mean, like
totally.
To be in the now. I mean,
I think that my partner would say that if you leave me in the now too long, I'll start another business or another band or another something. He's always afraid that if I'm there's too much lack of motion in my life, that it gives me time to come up with something new. So I don't know. But I know that it's hard for me to find the now. So we'll see.
I think most people would certainly relate to that. Finding the now is it's hard.
Yeah.
It's a challenge. You were talking about instilling confidence as far as when you teach students music and performance. How important is confidence and feeling confident in one's performance and learning how to play, for example, how to play piano and sing?
Well, I think we have to own where we are in the moment. And I teach all levels of students. I teach band as well. So I teach students who've only had instruments literally to their face for a couple of days, right? And then they kind of grow. But I think the mindset of being a musician is creating music. We're the ones who add the actual expectation of what that looks like and sounds like. But playing music makes you a musician. Enjoying music makes you a musician as well. So when I look at the confidence part being important, you have to be confident, but more importantly, you have to be trusting that there's a growth that's happening.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're confident, growth will happen, and your confidence will grow too.
Have you ever had a situation where a student was, say, overconfident to a point where it was more like make noise and not follow instruction, like almost kind of a dichotomy between, one's assurance as a performer, but not really listening to instruction and understanding fundamentals?
I think that stuff I think it happens all the time, just at different moments. Yeah, I mean, I've had a couple of kids who were, I don't know. There's no word for it. Just they were just doing their own thing, beating at their own drum. But eventually life catches up to you and you realize, I have to grow or not. Right. And you don't have control of that. You could only hold someone's hand if they put it out for you, right? Like if they don't want it, as long as they're being lovely with everybody else, that's all good. Right.
Now, as a performer, when you're on stage and you're performing and you're rocking a show, it's one sort of energy and frequency, right? And when you're teaching, would you say it's a different one? And if so, which of the two do you prefer?
So that's funny because that's a really good one. When I teach, I put on my performance self, and I find that if I'm performing for my students in my speech, like in how I speak to them and how I direct them and how I guide them, then I get a really good rapport and they want to follow because they're getting this performance energy thing. And so I think I'd like to say both are equal, but I really enjoy I really enjoy being in a performance because there's a bit of a out of body moment that kind of happens where you're just kind of like in your moment. Whereas when I'm teaching, I'm definitely in the moment. I can't stray from what I'm telling them. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
In terms of like genres that you sing and create, which one is your favorite genre of music? Because I think you do all sorts of music, yeah?
I do. Oh, that's so
actually
tough.
But before answering that, give us kind of a list of the genres.
Sure. So I do opera, and I do opera and oratorio, and I love French songs. So I do chanson, and I love singing German lied, which is totally bizarro.
You'll have to explain oratorio and then German.
Yeah, sure. Well, oratorio is like opera, except it's sacred text. I love singing.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Older, very old sacred text. I find very interesting. I love singing biblical text. I love singing in Latin. I love singing in different languages.
How many languages do you sing in? French, English, German?
French, English, German,
Italian,
Latin, Italian, 5. And I sing in some Cuban pieces as well.
Wow, multilingual. Six. That's 6 languages.
To sing. Don't stop
me.
Man.
Don't
stop me on the street and speak to me and like.
Hablo español.
No, no. But
you could just start singing.
Well, that's funny. I could sing in any language, really.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I really like that aspect of it, but I enjoy popular music as well, and I've spent most of my time in the last couple of years doing a kind of French jazz fusion thing, which leads me to also just singing regular jazz. It's funny because I market myself as the French jazz in the cover tunes that I do, but I can and do enjoy sitting down and singing through a whole bunch of like regular jazz standards. So I quite like that as well. Do
you incorporate that in the performance when you're doing French jazz? Like,
sometimes if I do something in the community, I'll do a mix, because I think then that, especially in Ottawa where we have such a vibrant French, English, and other languages, I'll try to bring other things out, and I think the audience likes it better every once in a while if they understand the text on either side of that conversation. But when I do go out as my Melanie E umbrella, I do only French songs for those. And I enjoy singing. I conduct a German choir. I love choral repertoire all across the eras.
Wow.
So
dude, you're all over the place.
I'm all over.
And I say that respectfully. Like you're.
I mean, when I was in
Wow.
high school, not high school, I was in university. I sang I enjoyed singing the women pop stuff, like Sarah McLachlan and Jewel, and when they went around, did Lilith Fair, and I sang in the Metro in Montreal and loved it. But
you actually sang in the Metro.
I actually sang in the Metro.
Like with a guitar and.
So my friend played guitar and I sang.
Which station were you at?
Different ones, but a lot of.
Which one was the spot? Which one was the station that like people?
Yeah, we did a lot of stuff at Barrie UQAM just because it's a big central whatever, and then but the McGill one was down from the university, so if we didn't want to go far, we'd go there. But my friend was the one who was awake early enough to get our names on the list. There was no way I was going to get up that early, so you have to go in the morning, and there's a little paper, and you sign in, and then you go later in the day. And the Peel Metro, actually, that one was really good too. Yeah, so I've done kind of everything, and then going back to your original question of which one do I prefer?
Yeah.
I love singing in French, and I love singing old sacred texts. So the genre doesn't really matter to me. But when I do those, I don't know, I get kind of even more uplifted. So
language, culture, and I guess spiritualism.
Sure, yeah.
What is it about language and culture in terms of the French language and culture and the spiritual aspect that really brings you out the most?
I think the French and culture is because I was the French. We lived in Quebec, but then we moved to Ontario when I was in end of my middle elementary, whatever. And I think I was the only French kid around, and so that made me hang on even more to the music. And then,
no one else spoke a lick of French, sort of thing.
Not as much. The culture was still different, right? This is before the internet,
right? So
it was very much it was a Franco-English kind of mix. Whereas I was really like French. I didn't even say like si. I was like petit, right? Like everything was all like really, I don't know. And I guess
so you weren't rocking the joual.
No,
okay.
Not even.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know, but that's a whole like Quebec thing. Like that was a
right.
whole like language thing that happened in the 70s. Some people were like, if you speak joual, then you're cool, and other people were like, if you don't speak joual, then you're cool. So I have to guess. I guess my mother was like, if you don't speak joual, you're cool, and that's how I was raised, right? And then, but Franco-Ontarian is slightly different still, especially when you get closer to Toronto. In the community, although there was a French community there, it was very different from the one that I met here. And I wasn't used to the accents. But, after a couple of years, you kind of assimilate and it's all good. But I really attached myself to my French family roots and definitely the French Quebecois and kind of like the culture there. Not all of it's from Quebec, but a lot of it's from France as well too, right?
Speak to us. Like when you're talking about the difference between the Franco-Ontarian vibe and in comparison to what you were used, what you know as French culture coming in from Quebec. What's the main thing that
I would stay away from the word culture per se.
Okay.
No, that's fine. But I think definitely was an accent thing, and just some everyday kind of phrases, and I don't remember them now, but there was definitely much more of the accent was just so different than anything I'd heard, and it almost sounds insulting, but it's really not. Like when you come from I went to school in the West Island, so by all means I was surrounded by a very English population. My father was English. My father was from Toronto and learned to speak French when he got married. But when I moved there, people came from, like from Northern Ontario, and their accent was totally different from anything that I'd ever heard of. And just repeating that, there was no internet at this time.
Sure.
And even on TV, right? You'd watch Radio-Canada and TV5 or whatever TV. Yeah. There was no you weren't hearing it. So it felt like it was a totally different space at the time for a little person moving from, Montreal area to,
So it was more of a regionalized accent.
Right.
And
exactly.
And there was no point of reference for you. It was almost like it was the same language, but it wasn't.
Right. And I wasn't used to other languages.
Right.
I mean, and then as I grew to love music, I started listening to music from, I actually have an interest in world music as well, and music from all different countries. And then as you start listening to French in different dialects from all around the world,
wow.
all of a sudden, like it's a whole new paradise. Of
Big
languages.
time, yeah. All these different accents, these different expressions too. When you look at, like, I guess,
right, and some of them are linked.
African, North African,
Exactly.
with Arabic, and even from France, of course. There's
so many accents.
That's beautiful. That's a beautiful thing
it.
about language and culture and music and all the different the range of expressions. But moving back to that question about this, you love spiritual text.
Mm-hmm.
What is it about spiritual text? Is it
I just think it's amazing that so much great music was written for spiritual text and for churches over the last, I'm going to say 2,000 years. Mm-hmm. It's so powerful. And that's the part that I find amazing, right? I look at, I was at a Bach cantati, concert yesterday, performance. And that was 3 Bach cantatas, so an hour and a half of music. And it is absolutely amazing. And this isn't, it's German text, but it's, it's all biblical. And whether or not he believed in what he was saying, Bach was forced, or his work was to take this text and to make it amazing. And it is amazing. It's just so intricate, the language and the text with the music. And that's the part that I love. I think it's just, it's so powerful. And then when I listen to that, I think you can't tell me there isn't a God, right? And it's a different, and for me, it's in Western music, but when you look at other cultures as well, and I joke about it, but it doesn't really matter which God that you're praying to or whatever being, but you can't say that there's somebody out there who has not written music in that headspace where they were thinking of whoever it is that you're, that you're believing in, or right. So
would you say you're a religious or spiritual person? You have a
I'm
faith.
definitely, I'm definitely religious, and I definitely have faith, and a very strong one.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something that's something as well that keeps me kind of grounded.
You mentioned like singing in Spanish, right? What using a different language and singing in it, and not speaking in it but singing in it, how do you feel when you're doing that? I think, as a performer,
I think words are cool.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that part of it. And so, like, those words that I sing, they become part of my everyday life. They become words that I use at home. And my family environment grows linguistically through songs that I sing or other people sing or whatever. And I get a big kind of kick about that. It's kind of I feel like I'm multilingual, even though, I can only say like quiero los ojitos, right? I'm like, oh, there you go, right? Like I know what certain words are, and I know what I'm singing, right?
Sure,
like it's not like I don't sing a bunch of words and not know what they are.
Right.
I know what I'm singing, and then I can actually use them at home in the privacy of my 4 walls.
But it's great because people use music for language acquisition to learn a new language, right? You listen. Let's say you want to understand English, you'll listen to English music, or if you want to learn French, you'll listen to French radio, French music, right? So it's a good way to expand one's ability to speak a language. What other languages are you interested in exploring? As far as
so I've always had a love for the German language, and we had German neighbors when I was a kid, and my dad took German when he was a kid, whatever. And so my dad used to sing to me to bed in German. Not that he spoke German, but he sang to me in German. So I've always loved German. And back in, I don't know, 2011, I started conducting a German choir outside of Toronto. And then I feel a real connection to the language and to the culture, even though I don't speak it.
Mm-hmm.
I understand it. Don't tell my choristers, because sometimes they like to, moan and groan about me in German. But
and you know what they're saying.
Yes, if I hear them.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So we explore that as a family. Like we've adopted the German language as our, my kids can count to 10 and they sing a couple of German kid songs and that kind of stuff. And then, and it's not a used language, but I would really love to speak Latin. And I had some time off, and I got myself all equipped, and then ended up being too busy working on a CD, and the books are still next to my bed. But I'll get there. That
sounds like a great business idea. Like if you expand, you know what I mean? If you expand and you start like singing, well, you sing in Latin, but they kind of use the music to teach Latin in a funky musical way. I'm sure you can get some clients, some students that way.
Right? Do you think the government would go for that? Teach all their employees Latin?
Well, yeah. I mean, some schools, it's fun.
Sure.
Some high schools still have, they still offer Latin. I remember when I was in high school, this is like 20 years ago, but I remember like there were some schools that taught Latin. Yeah. And I'm sure they're still around.
I'm fairly certain they do at my school too.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's, there's an audience for it for sure.
But when you speak Latin, then you have such a foundation for the words that you're using. And then it brings so much precision to language. And I like that. I think that's kind of cool.
What other would you consider, like, say, and I'm saying this because of the audience demographic, like what about Mandarin, for example? Would you consider singing in Chinese, in Mandarin? Or?
Sure. I would sing in any language. If somebody would take the time to show me how to do it, I would learn how to do it. And I'm very much an auditory learner. If somebody sat with me and did it nice and slowly so I could really hear things, I would totally do it. I took Arabic in school because I really wanted to speak Arabic. And so it was, I don't know, like week 4 or something. So we started and they're like, this is how you write the alphabet. And this is how you write, right to left. And these are your numbers. And this is how, shukran. This is how you say to please, whatever, all that kind of stuff. And then one day he said, okay, ladies and gentlemen, starting tomorrow, all our classes will now be in Arabic. I will no longer be speaking in English. Wow. So I'm doing a music degree. I'm learning an instrument. I'm doing music theory. I have massive homework. And after one day, I had 4 hours of homework because I was trying to decode, again, before internet. I had no idea what this dude was saying, so I had to withdraw from the course. I always regretted it because I thought it would have been so cool. And now at my school, there's a whole bunch of kids that speak Arabic. I'm like, oh, now all I can say is like, salam alaikum, right? Like, and they're like, yeah.
You could still learn it, though.
I can.
You could totally still.
I can.
So you mentioned which instrument were you were doing?
I was playing guitar.
Okay.
Classical guitar.
Cool.
Yeah.
And I'm jumping all over the place.
That's
I know
right.
this is fun.
That's my life. My life is all over the place.
Tell us the craziest, funniest story about the time you were performing in Montreal at the Metro. Any funny, crazy stories you want to share?
Funny, crazy performing stories?
Sure.
That's
because I can only imagine like that sort of environment being, Montreal being what Montreal is, which is a great city for arts. And creative people.
Well, it's not I don't know. It's not as crazy as one of my favorite kind of stories, and it's really not that funny. But so the Montreal Metro has they're always renovating, just like any other infrastructure type stuff. So parts of the metro get closed, and so people get forced to go through one exit or another because of the exits and stuff. And so we were doing oh my goodness, clarinet and guitar duets because that's a highlight for people coming home after work, right? Nothing like a little do 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 do, right? Well, whatever. And people were.
Are you saying people don't like clarinet and guitar?
I don't know. They were really unsure.
Okay.
They were really unsure. And and then people stand there and they stare at you, and you're performing, so you can't say anything. You're like, are you going to give me money? Or are you not going to give me money? Right. Or at least say something nice, right? Yeah. And so anyway, so this one person stops, and then somebody else stops, and they're like, oh, this is maybe like a really good thing, right? No, not a good thing whatsoever. This poor woman, she was like nauseous or something. And she stopped because she was trying to figure out like if she was going to be able to walk home. It was absolutely horrible. And I remember just having that kind of moment, like, do I just pack up and leave, or do I stop singing? Like, what do you do? Anyway, so
wait, she was nauseous because of the performance?
No, she was just nauseous, and she chose to stop and watch us because she was nauseous. It was so inappropriate. Yeah, it was horrible.
What happened?
She didn't vomit. She just kept staring at us, and then people knew she looked like she was sick, so people were walking by even faster, and it was like really busy, like 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
And we thought she was gonna vomit on us, and it was, I don't know.
That's
I'm
awkward.
still scared.
Yeah.
It was horrible.
Did you enjoy that audience, or like the commuter audience?
Yeah, absolutely. It's great. And people dance, and they'll dance in the as they're walking away, and
really,
yeah, it's great. And it's like the other group, we did guitar and voice, and we used to do things like Katie Lang and kind of like upbeat folky kind of stuff, and people would they'd clap as they'd walk by. And
would they do that in Ottawa, do you think?
I don't know.
Like you've lived in like Montreal, Toronto, Ottawa,
Calgary,
in Alberta as well. How would you describe Ottawa as an arts and culture sort of city?
And this is just my opinion. I mean, this is just my experience.
Sure.
But what I love about Ottawa is that everybody is supportive. So when you go to a show, or if you're performing somewhere, everybody wants you to be successful. And there's people there who aren't there to perform. There's people who are just there to watch. And people who don't always come to watch will come to watch because they want to be supportive. I just find there's always this really warm community of music-loving people everywhere.
So there's a demand for music.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. And like I said, people help each other. There's no, whether you're talking to somebody who's, one of the top players in town, or somebody who's in high school and they're just starting, you can't tell the difference. Everybody's just helping everybody out like a big team. There's not this big sense of competition, or it's music for the sake of music and not necessarily for the sake of the people. I mean, we all know that when you're a musician, that's how you make a living, but we could all be nice about it. And they are. Ottawa's amazing.
Interesting. How about Montreal?
I didn't gig enough in Montreal to actually get a vibe for that, but definitely like Toronto is so big that you can gig an entire life in one part of Toronto and nobody knows nobody even knows what you do. Wow. Because it's just so big.
Because there are so many venues and such a demand.
Geographically, it's huge.
Right, the city is. Yeah.
The city is. Yeah. I mean, we have a wedding business and we do live music for events, and we could easily do 200 clicks between weddings, and you're still in Toronto, right? Like you just went from one end to the other end and then back up again, and then you're like, it's just you can drive an hour and you're in Toronto still.
Do you like performing in weddings?
I like performing anywhere. I'll perform. I'll do.
What's the vibe like at a wedding when you're performing?
Well, it depends.
Any funny stories?
Always funny stories. A lot of weird questions that people ask you. First of all, I'm always surprised that people talk to you while you're performing. I really can't.
The hell?
Right? I can't really answer you while I'm singing. I'm a little busy right now. And then we always get asked for like songs. And I don't know if people think it's funny or if they're serious. Like they think that we take requests, but they'll be like, "Hey, can you play, I don't know, like name a band. Like, can you play Bon Jovi's blah 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 blah?" And we're like, "No, we're a jazz cocktail band." Or so that kind of stuff. But
how do they react to that?
Well, they just laugh it off. And they, but it's really weird. Like, why would you ask me that? Right? Like, I'm kind of playing. And then sometimes people say, they'll ask like, have you guys been playing together a long time? And it's funny because cocktail bands at a wedding, especially if you're like outside, you're not like, you're doing the 4 to 5 people are having a glass of wine. We just open up fake books. We've all been doing this forever. I'm like, let's do this song. And they're like, okay. And everybody plays. We might never ever play together. We might have somebody totally new, but it doesn't matter because we all speak the same language and we all look at each other and whatever, right? So you can never answer that question. What are you going to say? Well, actually, I just met this guy in the parking lot, but he came with a saxophone. I said, hey, sure, let's come on in. So, but most of the stories usually have to do with just things that people don't tell you. I did a wedding with my flautist, and we did a flautist, flute and guitar. And we did this one wedding. It was in a garden. And they didn't tell us. They said they want to walk down the Canon in D. And they told us that there was going to be like 9 people in the bridal party. We're like, okay, that's fine. 9 couples. So we're like, okay, that's fine. But they didn't tell us that they were going to walk all the way down the aisle and all the way back around. And they did this whole formation thing. But it lasted about 15 minutes.
Wow.
So it's like, for 50 minutes, right? Well, the flute player, she can't play anymore because she's laughing now. She's like, do we have to play it again? And I'm like, yeah, well, what else are you going to do? You have to keep playing, right? And she's like trying not to laugh. It's horrible.
That's awesome.
No, yeah.
15 minutes.
They called, I don't want to.
Yeah, fair enough.
It's a cultural thing, I guess. Yeah. But you should tell your musicians if you're going to be doing something other than just going from point A to point B, you should let us know so we can find some way of embellishing it, right? We were just so caught off guard. And then my other favorite was I was playing solo guitar and I was doing the song Here Comes the Sun for a bride to come down. It was an outdoor wedding as well in front of a bread and breakfast. Quite lovely. And then it had the big walkway that led up to the street. So I thought, I looked at the walkway. It's probably, I don't know, 60 feet or whatever. So Here Comes the Sun, right? That's fine. Right? And I start playing. But then I realized they have a flower girl and she walks the same distance, but she's a driveway away. And when she walks the whole driveway all across the sidewalk to where she has to walk down to the house. And then she proceeds to put each pedal down 1 pedal at a time. Oh, wow. So I'm like, do 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 do, and you're like, how many times am I gonna have to play that? Oh my goodness! You just don't want to laugh, right? Like, I don't know. That's just music labor, but it's all good. It's all good.
Well, how do you maintain your in situations like that? How do you guys stay focused and
it's really hard. It's really hard. In one performance in Calgary, there's there's this horrible thing that happened where the music wasn't lining up, and it doesn't really matter because I don't want anybody to know that it was them. But anyway, I remember speaking to a person afterwards because we were all on stage. And I said, how did you keep serious? How did you not laugh? It was absolutely horrific. Like it just kept going more and more out of tune as the performance was going. And he looked at me and says, Melanie, I just bit my tongue. And I was like, oh yeah, that could work, right? Wow. Like maybe if I feel enough pain, I won't laugh. But I don't know. It's kind of fun. It makes stories to tell.
Totally.
And you have to they're kind of music stories, but they make us laugh, and
that's good. Laughter's is fun, right? Laughter's.
It is.
Now tell us. We're almost running out of time. Plug the website where people can find out more about your band, your next performance, and any other upcoming things that you want us to attend.
Awesome. So most of my performances right now are under the Melanie E band. And so the website is Melanie E, MELANIEE, yes, 2 E's, .com. And that has all of our kind of upcoming performances. And for that, we also have a Barhaven Neighborhood concert series. I don't perform in all of those, but those are on the Melanie E band as well. When I do perform, they have like a performance every month, and every 3 performances I perform there. And then Melanie E band on Twitter and on Instagram, and Melanie E band on Facebook. Just Melanie E band. And then if you are in any social media, we'll reach out and you'll know that we're there.
You're very, very busy. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks for having me. That's awesome.
Yeah, I hope to talk to you again.
Super fun.
Definitely.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.